They've had some bad losses, Geltzy. Where does this one rank?
It was pretty bad. I mean, the Knicks right now are the NBA's version of a rubbernecking delay on a highway.
Mm.
You don't want to really look and slow down and watch, but you have to. You can't help it because everybody else is doing it. They're so bad right now. They can't defend anybody. Offensively, they're not moving the ball around like they were earlier in the year. The whole overhang from this Anthony situation is just affecting them in a horrible way. Porzingis isn't healthy to be on the floor, and quite frankly, he's their best player right now. The Knicks are really gutting themselves from the inside in, and make no mistake about it, this is a self-destructive job by the New York Knicks. This is not something that's happening from the outside. It's not bad luck. It's a very poor culture that Phil Jackson has laid out for this team that lacks accountability and is very big on finger pointing, because there's a whole lot of finger pointing going on there, and it's from the top down. So right now, that was a horrible loss for the Knicks yesterday. I'm not sure it gets any better this afternoon with Atlanta coming into Madison Square Garden. We are in an ugly chapter of New York Knicks basketball at this stage of the game, gentlemen.
Yeah, and really it's been like that for the last, decade and a half. I mean, it's just been ugly, hard to believe, once a proud franchise. Brian, how does it get cleaned up, though? That's what I want to know. Forget about the results. Who cares? They're not going to do any damage this year. They're lucky if they make the postseason. I don't even think that'll happen. But how does this thing get cleaned up? Whether it's Carmelo Anthony maybe getting traded, Phil Jackson moving on. How do you see this thing shaping out here over the next couple of months?
Well, I think we're going to see, unless Jim Dolan wants to eat the last 2 years of Phil Jackson's deal at $12 million per, I think it's going to be bad for another 2 years. Because the thing is with Jackson, he's in his 70s, Sal. He doesn't want to rebuild. He doesn't want to gut this thing, and they're going to have to gut this thing. Trading Anthony is a great concept. It's not really all that practical for a variety of reasons. Number one, he has this no-trade clause. Number two, and this is what is underreported out there, it's not only the no-trade clause, he can go and decide he wants to waive it. There's a 15% trade kicker in his contract. So you're not trading a $25 million salary. Now, all of a sudden, if you're going to go to trade him, it's close to $30 million. Finding suitors that, number one, will want to pay him that kind of money. Number two, that'll give you actual assets. Number three, that can actually fit him into the salary cap under that number is all very, very difficult. Phil Jackson somehow sees Carmelo having a no-trade clause. A no-trade clause that, granted, Jim Dolan made Phil give him, but Phil gave him. But that no-trade clause is hamstringing Phil somehow, some way, because Melo won't let Jeff Hornacek run his vaunted triangle, which would be the cure to all the Knicks Hills guys, right? I mean, that's how Phil looks at this. The reality is he's stuck with 32-year-old Carmelo Anthony. And even if Anthony decides to waive the no-trade clause, trading him is going to be very difficult. For the Knicks right now, they need to figure out what they're going to do around Anthony in the next 2 years. And quite frankly, the way Phil Jackson keeps speaking out, whether it's himself or through his emissary, Charlie Rosen, with that piece on FanRag Sports over the weekend, the way he keeps talking about Anthony publicly is so flat out disrespectful. And here's the thing Jackson's forgetting. He can't get a star to come to New York. And the one star he has in New York, and granted, Anthony hasn't been great this year, but the one star he has in New York, all he keeps doing is shoveling dirt on him and wanting to publicly embarrass him and disrespect him and make like he's a horrible player that Phil doesn't want at all. So I think the fact is, for the Knicks, unless leadership changes, and I don't see that happening for another 2 years, this is going to be bad. One playoff series win in 16 seasons for the New York Knicks.